Welcome to a very special crossover episode of Actors Unscripted and the Inspiration Show. Today, we're bringing you the best of both worlds raw, unscripted conversations with Broadway talent and the inspiration behind their journey. Get ready for a behind the scenes look at what it takes to hit the road on a national tour, share the stage with some of the most talented performers in the industry, and navigate the ups and downs of portraying Nick Healy in Jagged Little Pill.
Our guest today is none other than Dillon Klena, who stepped into the shoes of Nick after his older brother Derek originated the role on Broadway. We'll chat about his experiences, challenges, and what truly inspires him as an actor. So buckle up for an episode packed with stories, laughs, and a whole lot of inspiration because we're unscripted, we're inspired, and we're ready to swallow that little pill.
That was so good. That was so bro. I loved it. That's great. Hi, everyone.
Okay, so kind of a little bit about your journey. What drew you towards becoming an actor?
Well, I started performing at the mere age of 3 years old. So, and my siblings, my two older siblings, Lauren and Derek, they started performing when my mom was pregnant with me. So honestly, I was kind of born into musical theater. And they're quite older than me. So they're 5 and 7 years older than me. And so, when they were 5 and 7, they were kind of starting off their journeys right there. So when I came out, they were still like doing shows every year, and I watched their journeys. And when I was 3 years old, I did my first production. It was it was either Grease or Big River, and I was either a straw hat little boy or a greaser boy. And I jumped out of the trash can and did Grease Lightning, and that was like my first thing. Um, yes, either one of those is like right where I was beginning. But honestly, like I didn't really know I wanted to do it as a profession until I was in about ninth grade. I was bullied in middle school pretty severely. And when I was in ninth grade, there was the school talent show. And I had this was my chance to like show what I could do and show people that treated me that way, that I can amount to something and I can perform, and like this is something that's always been inside of me that no one really knew about. And I would do shows, but my theater programs growing up didn't in school didn't really do musicals or have theater at all. So I do theater outside of school with like children's programs and stuff like that. But I ended up winning the talent show, and I sang in the rally the next day at our school, a student-wide rally. So everyone was there in attendance and everyone saw me sing. And it honestly, that day forward, I wasn't really bullied as much. And it kind of changed the people who bullied me, it kind of changed their perspective of who I was and what I could do. And honestly, I feel like that moment, I that was the telltale sign that I wanted to do this. And I knew that like the arts can be a voice to the voiceless. And I feel like that gave me that power and that hope to pursue this in a full setting. But yeah, and then it actually there's a quote that I hold on to that's when oh gosh, what is it? Oh, when words fail, music speaks. And I think that is such a huge quote that I live by, just because the arts is so compelling and important for who we are and for who I am. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way. So, yeah.
I was gonna say, if Dear Evan Hansen taught us anything, it was that words fail and you gotta rely on the music. I mean,
Same
Exactly,
thing.
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
would you say that there was really a specific moment when you really realized like, okay, like this is what I'm gonna do and like kind of dedicate my talent and my life to?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of came around that moment. Also, another time when I really knew that I wanted to be like a full-on actor was I saw Bradley Cooper as the Elephant Man on Broadway when I was so young.
Every time you and I talk about this, I
I know, I love it though. But it's like it's just such a poignant memory in my brain, and I'll always remember it. And I remember like when I got my first iPhone, and I still have the pictures in my iCloud of like a picture of a side-by-side comparison of Bradley Cooper standing up like Bradley Cooper and then Bradley Cooper in the Elephant Man like thing. Like it's been, I'm telling you, ever since like high school, that has been such a huge inspiration to me. Um, but yeah, and in delving into like the art of a character. Also, when I was in high school, I played Shrek, and that really opened my mind up to like character acting and really pushing the boundaries. So my dream role in life is Elephant Man. At some point, I want to do it because you know what? Like, come on, it's so just bizarre and interesting, and like, why not? Or Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. You know, I was gonna say that one.
I knew I knew you were gonna say that. But I think the three of us have to like join forces with our voices because as we know, voices can speak and we gotta revive that show on Broadway.
Oh yeah, come
You have
on,
to do it.
come on,
When
let's
was
do
the
it.
last time that show was on Broadway? When you saw it, yeah?
Yeah,
Oh my, okay,
like
I've got to revive
probably
that.
2011.
Damn,
Like
that's like 13 years now. We got to revive that.
one of the
Bring it
faves.
back.
It's still one of the faves.
We got to bring that back.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of like how I got started and how or why I do what I do.
That's amazing. You played Nick Healy in the national tour of Jagged Little Pill, as we talked about before. Your older brother Derek originated the role and portrayed Nick in the Broadway production.
So, can you take us back to when you first saw the show and what was going through your head? Like, did you ever see yourself playing Nick?
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I never thought that would happen when I saw the ART. I saw the ART like the first iteration.
Yeah.
Like my brother, the character of Nick trails back all the way to the beginning. So Derek was with it from the very beginning, from like the first reading of Nick being introduced. So like Nick has definitely been a part of our family for almost 10 years now. Well, yeah, 10 years. But it's kind of crazy because I don't know, like I never thought I was that character. I always pictured myself as Phoenix. Like I always just thought like, oh, I'm more of a Phoenix. Like that's so cool. But then like I don't know. And I learned this on the road that like I am a lot like Nick. I never put myself in that perspective and thought about those circumstances before. Um and so yeah, I mean, seeing it, I never thought that I was gonna do it. And then I saw it on Broadway and and still I never thought I was gonna do it. And then, you get this audition and you're like, okay, let's just see what happens. And you're like, at the end of the day, that's kind of how it goes. And I had no idea that that was gonna pop into my email. You just never know. It's like the luck of the draw. And I went through an entire audition process. I first auditioned for Phoenix when they were looking for a replacement for Broadway for the Phoenix at the time, and I auditioned for it. And I don't think my tapes were ever watched, just because they were looking for somebody who was like probably exactly like the person, which it was. I mean, it kind of was like a good replacement. But then in February of the following year, I got an email with an audition for Nick. And then I submitted for that. And I'm telling you, when I got that audition, I was like, oh my gosh, like, no way. And I immediately called my brother. I immediately told my mom, and I was like, guys, this is wild. And honestly, Derek, I think, did he read with me for this? No, he coached me on this. Derek actually coached me on the scenes because he told me, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this, but whatever. It's been a year. It's okay. So, I think so my brother, he gave me some pointers because he was like talking about how the director, when she sees it, she knows that that's like when she sees it, she sees it. So she'll know if you're like the right choice just right off the bat, like when you walk into the audition room. So he was like coaching on me on like things that she would tell him and stuff like that. And so I felt pretty good about everything. And then I got a call back for both Nick and Phoenix from my Phoenix tapes from before. So I was going in for both Phoenix and Nick all the way up until the end, really. And there was two auditions, there was two callbacks, and then a final callback. And the day before the final callback, they told me, come in with the Phoenix material memorized, but keep Nick in your back pocket. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go in there, I do one Phoenix side, and I do all the Nick material. Because my brother was right. Like Diane Paulus was in the room and she saw me do the Phoenix side, and she probably in her head was like, nah, we're gonna move on to Nick, see if he can do it. And then I did it, and honestly, it just happened. But it was just like wild and surreal, and you just never know. That's the thing about this industry. You just never know when your time's going to be, So like I was going on so many things before that. I auditioned for the national tour of Anastasia and was down to the final two for Dimitri like a couple months before that. And like that's the crazy thing, like, and it's wild. And I was too young to play that part at the time. I would love to play it now. That'd be fun. But at the time, yeah, I was too young. And then also during this audition process, I was also in for Dear Evan Hansen at the time for Connor. And that was crazy too. And I made it to final callbacks for that. But it was during the time when Gayton was going with the cast. So I think and then by that time, like I had to accept Jagged or I had to decline it. So I accepted Jagged. Um, but yeah, and it's sad because like now Dear Evan Hansen's gone, and like I've never played that part, and I want to play it someday so bad. But we'll see.
It'll come back in some reiteration. I remember when I had the honor of doing the press with the national tour cast and it
Yeah,
was closing. We were like, oh no, it's closing. And then 2 months later, they're like, haha, we're going on another tour. We tricked you. So
I
it'll
know.
come back. But I'm
Yeah.
realizing now, I never actually have asked you this. And you were
Mhm.
talking and it came into my head. Were you hesitant to audition for Nick because of Derek's association with it? Or were you kind of like, you know what, like I'm gonna do it. Like, were you hesitant? Like, what was going through your head when you got that email?
To be honest, I was like, okay, that's to be honest, I was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like it never really occurred to me that I was going to get it in my brain because I number one have never been treated like Nick is like he's Nick is mentioned in the show as like Captain America. So in my life, I've never felt like Captain America. You know what I mean? So like when I got that audition and I was also going in for Phoenix, I was like, I felt like more like Phoenix, but like I don't know, adapt. Like I don't know. It just felt interesting. I wouldn't say I was like hesitant, but I definitely was it was like long shot in my brain, to be honest with you. Because I walked into the room and for callbacks and everyone was taller than me. Number one, I was like, I'm 5'10". I'm not 6'1". And so like walking into a room and I had long hair at the time. It was a definite weird vibe, but it was good. Like I felt so like appreciative. And that's the thing about auditions is like you got to take them. If it's something for that, especially, and we were coming out of a pandemic, so of course I'm going to audition for it, and of course I'm going to try my best and really go for it. Um, and that's what I did. Honestly, like there was no even talking to Heidi Lickenstaff like backstage, like she was a part of the casting process a little bit, and talking to her about you know what happened behind the scenes and like yeah I wasn't like oh he's Derek's brother he has to go into it. No, like there were other people that were in final callbacks, and like that was one thing that I had to at the stage door talk to people about because people thought I was just like given the role. And that's like the thing is like I had a whole audition process that people didn't really understand. But it's cool, and I'm just so thankful to have gotten to do that part and to literally wear the shoes, the Nick shoes, which we have.
That makes my heart melt. That
Yeah.
makes
I got to take those home and all my costumes actually. So I have all my Nick costumes.
that you didn't tell me. The Klena Kids Museum.
All my Nick costumes. I have 3 pairs of jeans that fit me perfectly. And I told my mom literally 2 days ago, hey, can you like ship those pants to me? Because I was about to go buy jeans. And I was like, why would I go buy jeans if I have 3 pairs of jeans like I barely wore? Like so that's just like that's just
Next
or
time
like
we hang out, you have to wear those jeans just so I can laugh at you all night.
oh, would you want me to wear the Levi's or the American Eagle brand? Like
Do they have the tag in them that has like the Jagged Little Pill National Tour, Nick Healy,
oh,
Dillon?
they might have Nick. They might have Nick in the
So
tag.
funny.
If they
Or
have
the
Nick in the
or
tag,
my name. But yeah,
when
that's so
when your
funny.
mom sends them to me, you have to send me a picture. That'll be so funny if they say Nick on the tag.
I'm very sure they still have a safety pin with Nick on the tag for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think that is gone. Because I have a shirt right now that I got earlier on in the tour, and that shirt was from the Broadway cast, and their name was still on the
Does it
tag.
say Derek?
No, this shirt was a we had like at the beginning of tour, we had like the clothes that we weren't using, we put into a room, and then all of us were able to go into the room and like take whatever we wanted, type of thing. Like it was like our own thrift store for Jagged.
Oh gosh.
And so I picked up the
Good.
shirt, and like all that stuff had the people's names on it. So like I
That's
had like
funny.
Audie Roy's t-shirt.
That
That's
is so
funny. But I mean, yeah, and I still wear that shirt today. There's still Jagged stuff, still Jagged clothing that I have in my closet right now from that little Jagged Little thrift.
Jagged Little Derek. Oh my god, I love that.
That is insanely iconic. We
Iconic.
touched on this, yes, of course. We touched on this a little bit a few minutes ago, but what was your audition process like? And how did Derek support you? What insights did he give you on his experience and tips that helped you?
Honestly, the only honestly, going into the audition process was kind of surreal. I had we did a dance call because yeah,
Cancer Dill.
Dancer
Sorry,
Till, come
sorry,
on.
every time.
I
Sorry.
now have dance captain on my resume from Rootka. It's wild. It's wild.
Ah,
Yes, I was dance captain in Rootka.
that
And
I
now
didn't
everyone
know. I
thinks
had
I'm a
no
dancer, and
idea.
now everyone thinks I'm a dancer when I go to
Cancer
audition.
Dill.
Like, no, I'm a well-seasoned mover, thank you. I'm a well-seasoned mover.
Over.
Um, anyway, yeah, so the audition process was chill. I mean, it was just self-tapes, and then there was an initial callback, and then a dance callback, and then which was really random because they were the reason why there was the dance call was because the Broadway production had these things called the pillars, and they were these big giant like walls that the cast would push around to make different settings and whatnot. And for the tour, they were cutting that. So they weren't sure if they were going to be incorporating dance and movement to move set pieces and do set changes. So they wanted to make sure everyone could dance just to like in case that came up. So honestly, yeah, we had to do there's this dance in the beginning of Act Two, um, that Frankie, the character of Frankie sings, I'm Prodigal Daughter. We had to do that dance. And that was when I noticed I was the shortest Nick in the room. And it was very interesting. Oh, but this is the crazy part, is because like you can tell like who's we got to a certain point where like they had it was I was second to last, and then this other guy was last, and then Lauren Chanel was second to last, and then this other girl was, and I saw Lauren Chanel dance, and I was like, oh, she's gonna get it. There's
Yeah.
no way she's not gonna get it. She just looks like the Frankie, and she's perfect for Frankie. And I'm like, she's gonna get it. So then I was like, okay, cool. And then for final callbacks, it was me and this other guy, the guy who was last. And I was like, okay, so what is this about? So I think that was interesting. And then they had us go again, me and that guy for the dance. And then, yeah, and then there was final callbacks after that. And then I didn't hear for like so long. I didn't hear for like a month,
Yeah,
say
that's long.
a month. And then I remember when I heard where I was, and this is kind of special because I went to college in California. My best friend Marlon, um, he was in my class, and he had never been to New York before. I think he went once as a kid, but he comes out to New York, and the first show that he sees on Broadway is Company, and he asked me to go with him, and it's his first show, like basically in New York, ever seeing like Broadway, whatever. And I get the phone call at intermission of the show with my best friend. And it's like, and it was, to be honest, it was like I just feel like it was just like that moment. I don't know. It's just one of those cosmic moments where you're like, dang, like what a moment. And I'll always remember that being with my best friend and like literally during Company. Like I just saw Patti LuPone saying "These are the ladies who lunch," and I'm getting a flipping call from my agent in intermission being like, hey, you booked it. Like, and I'm like, okay. And then all of Act Two, I'm just like, what? Like, I'm
You
planning.
can't focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just wild. And then the next day, I remember going to Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by myself as a treat.
Yes. Yes.
Just as a treat. But yeah, dude, it was wild. And I remember when I booked it, immediately I called my brother and we went to dinner. And he didn't really have any notes, or not notes. He didn't really have any suggestions or like anything like that. But he did tell me one thing. And because Heidi Blickenstaff was also part of the Broadway production,
Mhm.
she did the tour, she did the touring production as well. And so like like he knew Heidi, and the first thing that he says to me is, she's gonna slap the beep out of you.
Yep.
I don't know if I can say it, but
The
poop,
flick and slap.
beep is poop, but the other word, you know what I mean? Okay, so I'm gonna slap the poop out of you. And he said that to me. He's like, she's gonna slap the poop out of you. And she slapped the poop out of me every night. And it was wild. But yeah, that's like literally the only thing that he told me. And then we just talked about how crazy it was. And yeah, and then everything from that point on, it was just wild. And it was really nice though, because I'm glad that we both have that, and we both have this character, and both know parts of the character that are so personal to ourselves, like there are things with Nick that like only I can attest to being Nick, and only he can talk about being Nick for his Nick. And I didn't think about it as like I'm doing my brother's role, or like I'm I have to live up to that. I was just like, I'm a multiverse version of Nick that has his own sitch.
But we look really similar, so it's okay too.
Yeah, it's
It's
okay.
okay.
It's okay. We'll take it. We'll take it. But yeah, it having his guidance and support throughout the entire process was great, and just, knowing how important it was to our family, to this show, and getting to do it was really wonderful. Um and closing that chapter too was really hard, because that's like, even before going on tour, that was such a huge part of our life too. And to close it and be a part of that, and be part of like, and be one being like almost the only person in the room of that time that understood the whole journey, that's crazy too. And so closing that chapter for my family, it's a big one. It was a big journey. And yeah, but there's not one day that I don't think about it. There's not one day that I don't think about the show. And I mean, I think that's the point though. Like, you're always going to remember your first thing. And that was my first like big thing. And I'm always going to remember that.
I remember closing week was so sad, and the only thing that brightened my day was Heidi's Blick and Slap cam. And the fact that it was you and
Uh,
Derek killed me. Jazz Heidi edited these videos of every slap of her slapping Derek and Dill, and it went from
Five.
this
there were some,
iconic.
there were some times when she would slap me, and
I could
yeah,
hear it from your mic, and I was up first row mez.
sometimes I would go, like, I would walk off stage and go, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like,
I
that's
could like you can hear
hard.
it from your mic. You can fully hear
Oh,
it.
it was hardcore. And like, I'm fine. Like, I'm gonna just take it, because to be honest, I don't want to do like a nap slap. Like, no one wants to do the nap slap.
No, I agree.
Able to bring my emotional core to the surface if I'm doing a nap slap. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, like I had like we do stage combat at school because obviously I'm a theater major, so they teach us stage combat. And there have been so many times where I'd be up on stage doing stage combat and I'd forget to nap because you're so in the scene. So it's like somebody will just slap you and you forget to nap, and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like it
It's
takes you
not,
out of it a little
yeah,
bit.
the sound isn't the same either. You want
Yeah,
that authentic slap. You know
an
what I mean?
authentic slap.
Authentic.
I think
Yeah,
that's what we're gonna call this episode. The
authentic slap.
authentic slap with Dillon Klena. But no,
Yeah.
that kind of takes me right into my next question
Great.
perfectly. So, what was it like stepping into the shoes? I mean, literally, because you wore Derek's shoes of a character your brother had already portrayed, especially when you knew the role so well from his performance. What was that like for you, like from an acting perspective, to be like, I have to make Nick my own after seeing it been done this way by someone so close
Wow.
to me after all these
That was
How did you
That,
separate? I'm
that's
so
definitely
curious.
hard. Yeah, it was definitely hard because um in my brain, you don't understand. When I auditioned for this and I was reading the lines, like I saw my brother do that show so
Yeah.
many times. So every time I would say a line, like I would hear him say it, or like I would, and so it was definitely hard to like step away from that and to not lean into it.
Mhm.
But I do have to say, like having Heidi and having Chris Hoke, who was my dad, and having Chanel, and having Jade, like honestly, like watching them perform every night and watch and it being consistently different. Like every night was a different energy, and especially when you're traveling, like you're going to from place to place to place to place, the energy is always different, like, and the audiences are always different based on where we are in the country. The audiences were always different just because of what the show was showing, and the storytelling of the show and how it was perceived by the audiences in these different these different areas of the country where certain topics aren't as important to them. And so yeah, like just because all this energy was changing and everyone was adapting at the same time together, it really taught me how to make things my own and really delve into the circumstances of the character. um and so I really try to do that all the time, and a way that really the way that I got into character all the time was through doing push-ups, literally. Like he does push-ups on stage, and so I was like, okay. And Nick, I had so much time off stage. Like there was some times where I had like 20 minutes of free time in each act. And I was like, okay, how do I get back into my character really quick, really fast, and just pop some circumstances in my brain to get me on stage knowing what's going on? And to be honest, I would do push-ups because he does push-ups to get rid of his anxiety. I thought that the push-ups would, instill those feelings in me. And honestly, it worked. So every time I went on stage, right before I would do push-ups, and it would kind of get me into the mind of the character. Um, but yeah, and it's the thing is about acting is it's always changing. Like one day you're gonna feel this certain way about a line, and the next day you can say it with the same intention, but you're gonna say it differently, and that's okay. Like you'll still have the same intention, but you'll just say it a little differently, and that's fine. And to have a company that was so welcoming with that and so open with that, and also having a director that was so like um collaborative was also really great. But that was the thing about the company too. I feel like the company was really solid at the beginning, and it was great. So yeah, eat.
How would you describe the energy and dynamics from the tour and the Broadway production differently? Like, was there any different way the audience responded? Any different things the cast, obviously different things the cast are doing, any kind of different approached ways that you went about it?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I think the huge difference between the Broadway show and our show was the set, honestly. I feel like that was a huge the backbone of the story is the fact that it's so the setting and the stage is so interchangeable. Like there's so many things happening at once. And so I feel like having this new blueprint for how the show is going to be on tour, um, for some reason it felt like we were originating it because it was such a different staging of it. And so with doing that, like it just that was a huge difference for the creative team to kind of navigate and go with when it came to choreography, and when it came to blocking and all that stuff. So that was a huge change. There was some stuff story wise with characters, just like clearing things up within characters. Like there's the character of Joe that had some controversy in on Broadway. And I feel like the tour did a really good job of, capturing her story or their story, in a different way. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that the audience perspective of it, I feel like if you saw it on Broadway, you understood it and you respected it. And the thing about it when it was on Broadway is I don't think it was on Broadway long enough for people to get it. And and that's the thing about taking a show like this on the road that deals with so many different topics, that progressive topics that people are kind of uncomfortable with, some people, where you are in the country are kind of a little bit uncomfortable with hearing those things. So we definitely had like the struggle of um, people walking out if they didn't believe in something that we were talking about. And that's normal. Like we knew that going into it. We knew that if we went to, let's say, Texas, we were going to meet some people who weren't on our side with what we were talking about. And we just knew we had to deal with it. And yeah, we were worried and nervous and a little scared, but we had each other's backs. And I think that's like what pushed out this show. That's what pushes this show, is that like energy and like the core of the background being so solid and the foundation being so solid of just the cast members. So that when we were getting those, that audience, that negative audience interaction, we were able to, withstand it and keep moving forward. But yeah, I mean, the show was really, really well received though on the road. Like, and that's the thing, and that's the thing that I think about when I think about the Broadway production, is like the Broadway production never really had the chance to like show its stuff because of the pandemic. And when they closed the show, they didn't really have the option to close it. And so when my brother saw the show, he was like kind of relieved watching it, because he's like, wow, like the show works, the show works. The messages in the show, they do allow people to look inward and allow people to change, and give grace to the people who are working on change. And I think that's like what's so important. And so I feel like we captured that taking the show on the road. I feel like that was something that was beneficial to the world. And I mean, even when I posted about the show the other day, like yesterday, like the response I got from just posting that, being like, oh, this show should come back, like it was so important, like like even today with what's going on in the world, it's just like I feel like it's even more poignant now, this type of story. um but but there's a lot of pros and cons to that too. But yeah, honestly, like having the audience support of the show, whether if you didn't believe in it or not, like you'd still have a great time too, because it's Alanis music and Alanis is amazing. So it's a rock concert at the end of the day. People would come and just get excited and have fun just because of that. And so yeah, overall it was a great representation of not only the country that we live in, but like what art can do to society.
And I think it was so cool too. I mean, for me, like obviously I went to go see the show because I love you and Delaney to death, but it was also cool for my parents, to get to see the music because they grew up on Alanis. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't even born when Jagged Little Pill came out. So I think it was so cool for my parents to see how you sang perfect and like how different it was. And like, my parents will sing that song in the car just rocking out and I was just sitting there sobbing like hearing you sing it. And like I think it was so beautiful to see how it connected such an important story, but how it connected so many different generations, no matter if you grew up on it or not. And the conversations that it sparked was so important and just so poignant.
100%.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I'm excited to dive into this because I've never really touched on this with you. How did you find time to recharge and maintain your personal well-being while physically and emotionally demanding doing that show and being on a national tour? Were there any rituals or routines that you really adopted to kind of help you stay balanced?
One huge one. This is kind of just, these are like funny, but I mean, they're essential parts of like, stepping back and stepping out of the part when you leave the theater. But I would always, if we were in a hotel that had a bath, I would always take a bath, like literally
Oh,
as a detox. And like, I never used to be a bath taker before that, but I just found it so detoxing. And especially with a show that's so deep and so somewhat dark, it's very easy to be affected by that.
yeah.
Just when you're doing a story that's like constantly in your face and you're constantly doing it every night, like it does take a toll. And to be honest, like even today, like there are some times where I'm like triggered by stuff that happened during that time. And Sarah Bareilles, she posted on her Instagram a story about how when she got her first big thing, she was never the same after that. And there's some truth to that, because you're so, like, I feel like I learned so much about people, about the arts, about theater. And so, yeah, it was very beneficial to go home and, play a video game or watch a Disney movie or, um, you know, take a bath. Like honestly, like it goes as simple as that. But yeah, and also just being healthy too. I mean, maintaining your health is so important on tour. And so like to always rely on that and to have that, that's a way to get out of it for me, was just knowing that like taking care of myself, making sure that I'm not sick. Because when I'm sick, that's when you become anxious and then you start worrying about the show and like then your personal life starts trailing into the show and then it's like then you're worrying about that. But that's the thing too, is like you're on the road, like every day is different. And so some days I wasn't affected by it. Some days I was. Some days I would cry in the show, and some days I wouldn't. And that's just like how it goes. Like, can't force emotion. You can only feel it. But anyway, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
As my theater teacher likes to say, he always says, it's the story that you tell tonight. Like, especially when you're doing an 8 show week, like, and you're doing the same show over and over again. It's the story that you tell tonight. If you cry, great. If you say a line a different way, great. If you mess up a line, great. That's the story that you're telling tonight.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So the music is, of course, iconic, very powerful. How did you feel the songs shaped your portrayal of Nick? Was there a particular song that you found, transformative in how you approached the role?
Um, there was Perfect is definitely a hard song to sing, and it's definitely like a lot of emotion. And another interesting part is that this is the only song in the show where there's no ensemble present on the stage. So it's just me singing by myself with no background vocals, nothing. There's nothing. And so that's can be very daunting. And so like I just remember like opening night, I was so nervous. Like just like being like the nerves never really went away for that song. Um, but that song is just so awesome, and it was such a joy to sing that and find the simplicity and find the specificity of just like what that character was going through in the song. And that's what I also learned was how minimal things can be, but how important they are also as well. And so when that song, there's a lot of subtleties, but they're all driven by something in the core of who we are, and that's what I tried to get at. But the other song, my gosh, what is it? Wake up, duh.
Yeah.
Wake up.
You got you, you
Wake
got
up.
you.
Oh gosh, it was only a year ago. Okay. Um, Wake Up. Yeah, so Wake Up is Nick is kind of losing it a little bit with like caught in between his best friend and this other girl, and he doesn't know like what to do with this new information he's heard. He's just going through it, and so like and I have to do push-ups while I sing, and like there's just all this tension, and it's like and so like maintaining that was really difficult, and like there towards the end of the run I would feel tense, like honestly tense, to the point where like it would be hard to sing sometimes because of how tense I would get. And learning how to calm myself during those times, or just like, pull back the emotional intensity and but keep the physical intensity there, was something that I was a really huge challenge for me. Um, but but honestly, like, but there's a part in the show in the beginning where like they introduce the characters in the show, and like the from the family and all that, and that entire intro of like 14 minutes or whatever, all I really want, that is like my time to settle into the character too as well. So just using that, eating my little waffles, which was wonderful.
Happy Harvard dad.
Dude, literally every day I had a waffle. That was crazy. I can't believe every day I had a gluten-free waffle of some kind on my
And they
on
were gluten free. That's how you know they were good.
there were blueberry, there was maple ones, there were like weird cardboard tasting ones. There was yeah, guys. It was that was
Wait, what did they? It's been a year. What did they use to decorate them again? Because they wrote like his Heidi's character wrote Nick on them. MJ wrote Nick on them, right?
Yes, so it was agave syrup. We really did have agave. So we really did have agave syrup in the thing. So every time like I would pour syrup, there'd be real syrup coming out. Like,
That's
oh, the waffles were not bland. I definitely had some good waffles. Okay. Like there are some times where I was like, I would look at my Chris or Ben, who played my dad, and I'd go like, wow, this is actually pretty good today. Like we would joke about it on stage. Um, but yeah, that was like my thing. It was the waffle. I always have one waffle a day. But yeah, during
So
that time, it was just that was a way to, you know, get into it.
you, me, and Delaney, our next food outing will be waffles. No more Raising Canes. We'll do waffles.
No more Raising Canes, only waffle.
Only waffles. Have you heard of like the waffle chicken? Jess, have you heard of this too? The weird food combo. People do like waffles and chicken.
Oh
You
yeah.
heard of that? We should
Big
do
fan
that.
of the
We'll do
big
that. Yeah, chicken and waffles. We'll do that.
Chicken and waffles, come on.
Let's do it. Oh, I'm excited for this one. I don't think I know your answer to this one. Did you have a favorite moment in the show that you look forward to performing each night, or one that you felt had the greatest emotional impact on you as an actor?
I really like the scene between Nick and MJ, the first scene, right before Perfect. That scene I feel like is so important because you see Nick struggle for the first time. That's the first time where you see him kind of like break out of his shell and be like, "Mom, something's wrong." And I mean, for my mom and like for parents, I'm pretty sure that they all go through like that time where your kid like just doesn't know what to do and is kind of like caught between doing what's right and doing what's best for them, you know? And so I feel like this is like that moment where he's like, I don't know who I am. Like I feel like kids go through that all the time. And there are the parents that just like don't know like how to handle that. And so I feel like that scene is so important just to see the relationship of mom to son, but also to see like the inner turmoil of a character start firing up. And I think that's like important because that's the first story, like that's the first part of Nick's story where you get like a full insight of what he's going through before all this stuff hits the fan.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's my favorite part that I got to play in the show.
I will
And the
never.
slap scene, and the slap scene.
It's
Like
not, oh, it's iconic. It's
iconic.
no pun intended. It's iconic.
Iconic.
I will never forget sitting in that audience watching Perfect. I was sobbing. The people turned next to me during the show and fully asked if I was okay. Like that's how hit I was. Like I had never been more emotional at a show, I think, in that moment. And I think
Oh,
what's so special about that show is you kind of get to peel back the banana and like see what's really going on. My first rehearsal for Next to Normal, I was singing Superboy and the Invisible Girl, and I was like, this is so Nick coded. Like it relates so much to like I feel like Jagged Little Pill and Next to Normal. There's like an invisible string there a little bit. Hear me out
oh,
on that one.
well, I mean, Tom Kitt was involved in both productions, so
Thank you, Tom Kitt. Let's go.
I mean, it's true. It is true.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I mean, there's something just about like I think they're I call them psychological shows because like we
Oh,
have like a
yes.
psychological thriller, like a movie genre, but I think like there's psychological shows like Next to Normal, Jagged Little Pill, that like you think
Yeah.
about a topic, but you're forced to go a little bit deeper. Like even Rent, like I feel like that's like the
Yes.
thing, or any show, like Spring Awakening, even any modern contemporary show
Shout out Melchior. Yeah.
pulls back the banana. And this yeah, I feel like this genre of show is so important. Even Parade, like the shows that make you think about life and about culture, about where we
yeah.
are and where we've been and where we could go. Like those shows, I feel like that's what we need right now.
Oh, I agree. Those are the
Um,
most special ones.
For
yes,
sure.
yes, yes, yes. But yeah, very, very similar to Next to Normal. And that was like I would say it's a hybrid of Next to Normal, Dear Evan Hansen, and yeah, something
Yeah.
else.
It's the
Oh, this is
iconic. Yeah. It's the iconic crossover that we have going on here. I love it.
course.
Such a fun
Yes.
It's both great
Oh,
shows. You know,
Yes.
now that it's been about a year, almost exactly since the tour ended,
That's
how do you
wild. I know. This is great timing, you
crazy?
guys.
How do you reflect on your time playing Nick Healy, and what were the biggest personal and professional takeaways from being a part of the production?
Um, Personal things. I feel like I found out a little bit more about who I was. I mean, I basically went through two birthdays on the road. And so that's like 2 years of growing up. And so I feel like all of us kind of grew up together a little bit. Um, and and just being an adult on my own for the first time for that long, and like getting through that, being alone. I was in a relationship before tour, and during tour that we broke up, and so like navigating heartbreak through a tour and dealing with all that, and you know, making friends and having that. But mainly for me, I feel like I found a lot of newfound confidence in myself that I didn't have before tour. And with that show, I feel like I found my place in the community a little bit of musical theater and just the commercial world. And so with that, I'm very thankful. And I got to see the world. Like I got to see the country. And like there's parts of the country I never thought I would see, and I did. And that's something so special. And I was a part of a show that changed people's mindsets and changed people's lives. And that's what I've always wanted to be a part of, is I my one of my dreams is to, you know, work around the world and work with kids that don't really have the arts in their towns, and kind of building that. And you know, because I feel like art is a central universe where everyone is welcome. And I feel like that's just, you know, that's what we did with the show. I feel like it was a place where everyone was welcome. And 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 that was such a huge takeaway. um but yeah, what was the other one you asked? You asked me about my personal goals. And
Your professional takeaways. That was
yeah, okay, yeah. And I mean, that was my first like commercial theater production, like in the realm of Broadway and all that. So like seeing how things happen behind the scenes, and you know, with the union, and like with you know, producers and the show itself and the branding of the show, just everything, just seeing all this stuff happen behind the scenes was also beneficial. um and and yeah, and I got a national tour on my resume, so boom, there you go. And
Yeah.
it was just, yeah, it was really special. And yeah, it's always gonna be a part of me, and I'm always gonna remember it. So
I think it's so crazy how you found out you were going on your first Broadway national tour at a Broadway theater, and might I say the best one. Shout out Bernard B. Jacobs Theater.
yes.
shout out Jacobs. Shout out Jacobs.
Shout out Jacobs. That theater is so special. I mean, all theaters are special, but that one's extra special.
Always there, never not there.
Always there. So, last but certainly not least, and it's crazy asking you this like almost a year since closing. I'm sorry, you're gonna hate me for this one. If you could sum up your entire Jagged experience in one word or phrase, what would it be?
Oh God,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. Um, one word of my Jagged experience.
It could be a word, it could be a phrase, it could be a lyric, it could be a quote, whatever you want.
Oh man. Okay. Well, the first the first word that came to my brain was everlasting, because I feel like I know, think about it. Because I've been I literally was like, okay, we've been out of the show for a year, and I have thought about this show like every single day since we closed. Like it's not like it's the thing that like stuff has popped through my brain every single day from the show. Like I'll see a picture in a memory, or like hear a song, or hear You Ought to Know, and I'll just be transported back to a memory. Like it's and I'm sure my other cast members can say it. Like it's consistently a part of us. Um and so I feel like, and even like I feel like that word does mean a lot, because the message of this show is so everlasting. And like when people learn from the show, they grew. And you live, you learn, you know. You live, you learn, you know. And
No,
so, yes. And so I think like, yeah, I'm gonna say everlasting. And I'll say, hmm,
you
you
starring in Tuck Everlasting coming soon.
everlasting. Um,
That's Winnie Foster.
I have to say I
Winnie Foster.
gosh.
I mean, we have talked about a gender
All
bend
encompassing.
miscast.
All encompassing. That's what my phrase is for Jagged.
Oh. Can we do the cast of The Outsiders just did one. Can we do a Jagged Little Pill miscast? We'll go back to Green Room 42 and do a Jagged Little Pill miscast. And you'll play like Mary Jane or Phoenix or something. Can we do it, please?
Yes,
Do it. I will
yes.
be
But I
there.
want to be the teacher. I want to be the teacher so bad. I want to be a part of the featured ensemble. Okay. Let me be a part of the featured ensemble.
Let you do the owl noises.
Oh God. Yeah. Let me do the owl noises, please.
Oh.
I'll do the owl noises.
Bring it to New York City. I will be there, guys.
Yeah.
And
Anyway.
that's a wrap on our inspirational unscripted episode. Thank you, Dillon, for joining us for our crossover episode. It was so great having you, and thank you for sharing your journey.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
Of course.